And I'm so delighted this morning to introduce Netawn. Netawn Alice Kiogima is a proud member of the LTBB Odawa tribe and strives to live by traditional lifeways and revitalize their beautiful language. It's amazing. And that's the original sound of the slam. So such an important part of where we live. I mean, we live here because it's a really beautiful and amazing place that we need to take care of, but understanding the history is really important. Understanding that Netawn graduated from Central Michigan University with a BS, a teacher and an MA in curriculum and instruction. And Netawn has worked for the tribe as a language instructor since 2013 and became the director of the Gijigowi Anishinaabemowin. Working on it.
Yeah, you did good.
And I just want to say, like, with Netawn and Renee and some other artists and Janan, I'm really grateful for the patience and teaching us, you know, some basic language and persistence, and
Yeah.
it's a really Netawn has had the honor to work for the tribe and provide Anishinaabe cultural awareness for our shared community. Bidasake, Petoskey, and Miigwech. Thank you. So please welcome me. Thank you.
Ani Bujo. I think I'm supposed to stand right here. Okay, a little over. So you can see, yeah. And then we can still see. Awesome. Miigwech. Can you all hear me with the micro? I think this is just for the, okay, so I'm going to make sure that I heard you say project my voice, everyone can hear me. So Ani Bujo, Anishinaabemowin kwe nindigo migazendo dam, waganaxingo daw and dodibandagos, de kwe and daw, nijo benojok and dowak, ndanis, menwa ngwis, menwa swe no sheak and dowak, on getchinendum, mampiya, misawe. So hello, greetings everybody. I just introduced myself in the Odawa language, and I give you my spirit name, which is Good Walking Woman, and my clan is from the Bald-Headed Eagle clan. And so our people still go by the clan system, and I'll talk about that later. I have two adult children. I have a daughter and a son, both went to Petoskey High School here. And I have 3 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So I'm love being a Nokomis. That's how you say grandmother in Anishinaabe. So Anishinaabemowin includes the 3 tribes. So Ojibwe, Odawa, Potawatomi, and we all speak Anishinaabemowin. So you'll hear me say that a lot. But you know, speaking Odawa, it basically means the same thing, but this particular dialect. So she talked about my introduction, and I love working for my tribe, love working for my people. The first time I heard my language was at a powwow, and I was not raised in my language, and that is pretty common for a lot of Anishinaabe people. But I was raised in a native home, you know, with the whole lifestyle of, you know, joking around and hearing words. And so I heard some words, and I've always heard like Miigwech, but I've never heard like my parents speak it or my grandparents speak it. And I really never knew about it until I was a teenager, and I heard a prayer at a powwow, and immediately was drawn to it. It's like, this is something that's part of me. It's like, this is something I need to explore. And from then on, kind of started my path of, like, I always knew I was Odawa, and I was always proud of it. It was hard in school. You know, I grew up in East Lansing. My dad, my Nospa, was a Spartan. So, you know, grew up there, and go green. And and so I grew up in an urban community, but next to us was Lansing North American Indian Center. So I did grow up in an urban Native community and started taking classes at the North American Indian Center. There were language classes there for youth, and my sisters took it, and we had some other Native youth in the community, and it just started me down this path of wanting to know more about my identity, who I was, where and what my language was. And so it started very young, and I just wanted to find a place of belonging. And I didn't fit in with minorities at East Lansing High School, and I really didn't fit in with just other. I mean, we were low income, so that's where I fit in, I guess. But there was no like Native advocacy at my school. There was no support, and so I just school was not a great experience, but then that's what encouraged me to be a teacher, is because I wanted to be that Native adult for that young Native student. I never saw a Native teacher, my whole life until I got to college. And so I wanted Native youth, children, to see that a Native teacher, who could teach them culture and language and who they are. And so that's kind of my journey, and met my children's father, and he's Ojibwe from Wisconsin. And so my children are LTBB Odawa and LCO Ojibwe, and it's all Anishinaabe. That's what we call ourselves, all three tribes. And he's from Chicago. I'm from Chicago as well. My mom is. So I have family on my father's side down in Chicago. And we moved down there, and when our daughter became a school age, we wanted to move out of the city, and that's when we moved back to his reservation in LCO, Wisconsin, which is up by Hayward. And they had an immersion school there, and it was all day immersion in Ojibwe language, and that really kind of kickstart, like, I really want to be a teacher, and I really want to teach the language. I worked there as a teacher assistant. Both my kids went there. And so that's how we ended up back around Lake Michigan. We ended up back in Mount Pleasant. I've always liked CMU. I lived in Mount Pleasant for a few years. And CMU is known for their teacher education. So it's like, this is my path. So we moved back, and graduated in 2013. And just happened that our language instructor at Pierre was retiring that spring. And so I immediately applied as soon as I graduated, and was hired in our language department. So, and that's, I've been here ever since. So to talk about my presentation today is Anishinaabemowin and the spirit of creation. Let me get, if I get this, yay. So our sound is from the creator. So when I say that, I mean, I'm talking about the creator God, the great spirit. Anishinaabe have a very strong connection when it comes to the spirit world. And we recognize that daily. We recognize it in our language and our daily practices when we pray. The creator, Gijigowi, is what we call that entity. And we know that that sound came from like the stars, it came from the universe, and we come from the star world, and then we return to the star world. So with our Anishinaabe teachings, our spirit chooses our parents, and that's where we come from, is the star world. That's, I guess some might consider that heaven, or whatever religious beliefs you have. Ours is Nangoka, which is the place of the stars, which is the place of the spirits. And we start off with the stars. We choose our parents when we come into this world, this physical realm. And then when our time is over in this physical realm, we go back to the star world. So it's circular. So, and I put the moon here because we refer to the moon as a female, and she is Nilkamis. She is our grandmother moon. And we have full moon ceremonies every full moon. and to honor and respect that relationship that a grandparent has with their grandchild, and knowing that, remembering your grandmother and how she, she was the pillar of your family and always there, always had your back. And that's what she does. And we refer to her as such. So, oh, aha. I'll make sure that's the next. Okay. Oh, that's big. I'm going to step back a little. Okay. So before we have any sort of meeting or gathering, we say a prayer. And because we're kind of speaking on behalf, right? We're speaking on behalf of spirit world, and the creator. And we try to do it in the most humble way possible. And so this is one of the prayers that we learned. We used to have a fluent speaker that worked with us. And a fluent speaker is the first language speaker, as in Anishinaabemowin is her first, that's what she was born into. And of course, she's bilingual, she knows English. She worked for us for maybe 5 years, but she had to go back to Canada. And that's where a lot of our fluent speakers come from. So we made this prayer it's a learning prayer. And we teach it, but we also translate it. So when you're saying these sounds and you're speaking to the creator, that you truly understand what you're saying. So I'll go ahead and read this off. So it's Gijigowi Ginonduin, conversation with the creator. And so the first one is, so I would say, Mino Bimosekwe indigenous Migizet and Dodam. And then Gijam Nado, Sema Niminjagona, Nimigwechawanda Minwa and Gooding Gizis Gibanabid. Migwech Ejana Gajawit, Shkakamikwe, Askab to Shimpane, we Nanikazia, and then Wenwana, Minwa Ninda Kichitwa, Wendak Kin Kinomadwin, Nagdawenum, Ekaza Yakawazajik, Minwa, and Gazjik. Now Migwech. So this prayer is, we like to have our students, and our students come in many ages, to practice. So we actually have several prayers that we sit down with the table, the fluent speaker, and we convey what we want to say, and then we kind of go through the language and translate this and make this prayer together. So, we want to say how, we're giving thanks, the beauty of Mother Earth, to acknowledge all of that. So Anishinaabek is the people, so that's plural. Anishinaabe would be just me, Anishinaabe Ndao. I'm an Anishinaabe person. And Anishinaabek is the people, all the people. So our language is oral, but we do have a writing system. And sound is everything. So that's why the sound and the vowels that you make is so important, because you want to hit those sounds and correctly to sound as naturally as you can. Language and culture are intertwined. You can't have one without the other. So like, for instance, when you come back to watch Wasan or Renee Dillard, she's the weaver that made these bags over here. You're going to hear her speak the language, and she knows the words on these weaving and putting this together. So it's just, culture and language are never separate. Where we are now with the language as a tribe. And I want to talk about animate and inanimate, and then the concept of we are all related. So it kind of it kind of has something to do with some of the readings that Sheila sent me with Monadu Worlding, and then the Vibrant Matter. So I was able to look at some of those and read some of those, and so just to see the connection of what both authors were saying and how it intertwines with the Anishinaabemowin. And again, there's no alchemist of Jesus, always depend on her. So here is a map from the Mishomis book. The Mishomis book was written by a great Medewan chief. And he was the Grand Chief of the Three Fires Lodge, which is Ojibwe Odawa Potawatomi. It is a spiritual lodge, a spiritual place where teachings happen. And Medewin is from here as well. So the place, Cross Village, was actually, the cross was mistaken for like a religious cross, but it was actually a 4th degree Medewin status. So it was, had nothing to do with, they thought we were already assimilated and converted, you know, when I got to Cross Village, but little did they know it was actually a sign for a 4th degree Medewin that lived there with his village. So, so he created this map, and this is a teaching of Anishinaabe of we came from the east, as in we came from the Atlantic Ocean, created with water. And so what happens is we have all of these stopping places, and you can also prove these stopping places linguistically, like the language, the indigenous language that is spoken there. This migration was brought on by prophecy. We had prophecies that told us that this is where we were supposed to go, what we were supposed to do, and different places where different families branched off and made villages, which are modern day reservations or reserves in Canada. So if you follow the arrows and kind of see the offshoots of everything, and we're around number 5 is, so we have like, oh, this has a little pointer thing, that's right. I don't know which one it is though. I don't want to mess it up. And this big one. Ah, okay. So we have number 5 here, and this is kind of where our Odawa people and villages started. And so this, do you see this island right here? So this is in Canada. This is all Odawa. And I mean, they do have Ojibwe and Potawatomi there, but this language that they speak on this language is specifically Eastern Odawa dialect, which is what we speak. So we are related all the way here, so that we're directly connected to this island, which is called Wikwemikong. And this island here is kind of the Mecca of Anishinaabemowin, because they have the last speakers. We have, I think, we have in our department, we have a language specialist, and she does research on the language. And she's been looking into some of the last speakers that are in this community. I think we narrowed it down to 2 brothers. They're elderly and they don't want to speak. They just want to be left alone. One of them used to come out to our classes. We used to have an immersion class. And so it's very, we have to kind of gently approach them, but they're not at the stage in their life where they want to jump up, put their shoes on and go teach kids. They're not there. They're at their time of their life where they're, retiring and enjoying their life. So we've narrowed it down to 2 brothers, but other than that, our speakers come from here. So we've hired at least, I would say, since the beginning of the language program, which is in 2004, going on, wow, it's over 20 years. We've hired maybe, let's see, there's 6 fluent speakers, and they all come from Wikwemikong, right here. So they have kept their language, but they're also losing it too. Everywhere it is an urgent state everywhere when it comes to indigenous languages, because kids are not speaking it fluently. That's a big indicator that it's being lost. So yeah, that's here, and we are here. And when assimilation happened, and with some of the treaties, there were a lot of families that took off because they were afraid of the Removal Act. And we do have a band of Odawa people in Oklahoma, so they were removed. Like you hear the Cherokee Trail, Tears of Trail, yeah, sorry. We had that as well. The Potawatomi had it. We had it. It happened to all the tribes east of the Mississippi. So we had families that split and a lot of them went back to Wakwemacong. And then a lot of them took off out west. We have families that live all the way out of Minnesota. So you see that our migration goes around Lake Superior and stops here. And in the prophet, it was told where we needed to stop, which was where the food grows on water. So, and that is wild rice, monomen. And we used to have wild rice around here. We have a little bit. We're trying to bring that back, but it's been generations since we've had wild rice beds here in this area. So this is our story, the beginning of our story, of our teachings, and where we came from. It's a beautiful place over here called Wasoxing, which is where the sun, where life comes up. It's a very specific name, but so yeah. So here's modern day Anishinaabemowin. As you can see, there's a bunch of branches. And Cree, OG Cree, they call it, Northwestern Ojibwe. The family root is Algonquin. And then Odawa is our dialect here and here. Potawatomi is in the south. We have Potawatomi people, speakers in the south. And then we have the Ojibwe, which is considered the Western dialect. So this is the Southern, Eastern, and Western. And then north, we have a lot of Cree, OG Cree, a mixed Anishinaabemowin. So I was talking about how we have oral history, and we adopted a system called the double vowel system. And these are the main sounds that we start with, and these are very important. And there's the English sound to it with the Anishinaabemowin sound, and then, the translations of what that means. So the double A is ah, as in father. The double I is E, as in see. The double O is a O, like it's being dragged out, as a note, no, O. E is bed, A, single A is canoe, and single I is as in sit, and single O is no, like a short no. And so in Anishinaabemowin, that double A sound is ba ma, which means later. Like that's kind of a slang we use. We say ba ma, it just means later. The double I, ni bish, is leaf. Mopto, he is running, he or she is running. Say ma, tobacco. That's what we use in our prayers. That's one of our medicines, our mishkika. Pane, pane is always, can also mean forever, it's always. Pitcha is a robin. And then the last one, zokwa is it's snowing, it is snowing. So that word actually means that whole phrase, it is snowing. Mupto means he, she is running. So those aren't just one word, it's an actual phrase, like a short sentence. And so here's the vowel chart. This is when we teach Anishinaabemowin, we always start off with this. And so our alphabet is right here, all along here. And so we don't have L's or F's sounds. And we have our double vowels up here. And then we just go by, when we start teaching this, we go by the color. We start off with green, and then we just follow the green and getting those sounds in there. So we do it as an exercise with our students of any age. We can do this with young children, and we can also do this with older adults and elders. So this pertains to everyone. We also do exercises where we practice and go straight down and hit those vowels. And some of our unique sound is on the very bottom here, if you can see this, is ZH. That has a zh sound to it, like measure. So it's like your teeth vibrate a little when you say it, zh. So my son's name is Zhawan. And that his full name is Benes, which means Southern Thunderbird. But his name starts with this right here, with this sound, zha, and ji, zhong, zha, je, zhong. And so it's so awesome to see when youth or anyone, when they learn any of these sounds, and then it's like we'll tell them to say this one, gi, and they repeat it, and then to repeat this one too, gi, gon, and so they say it. They'll say gi, gon. I say, you just said fish. And so then they see how this works, and they're like, oh, that's so cool, blah, blah, you know, and they want to do more, they want to learn more. But it's so important that we start off with these sounds. And so this is a teachable way that we can take into classrooms. I mean, we could take it anywhere. We take it to youth camps, but it's just important to start off. We also have this on YouTube with the sound to go with it. So, let me go back here. So what's in the sound? So we have animacy and inanimacy. So Anishinaabemowin, we have two categories. We have animate, and then we have, inanimate, and then we have animate. So we have inanimate nouns, things, some food, and some nature. Notice I said some, not all. And then animate, living and a spiritual essence within. So this is when we get into talking about some of that matter, that vibrant matter, some of the Monadu worlding, because it is a spiritual essence that's in our words, it's in our language that we speak, because we're speaking not just to person, but we're speaking to everything around us. It could be spirit, could be these baskets, these beautiful things. They're considered animate. And right now, maybe inanimate it looks like, but let's say we would take that bag and go into ceremony or go on a journey with this bag. That is animate to me. That becomes alive because it's vibing with me, with my spirit. And so this is where it gets tricky though, because we have a lot of people that just question why this, why that. And so some of the examples are, so when it's appropriate, the energy within, just talking about those bags. So we have strawberry versus raspberry. We have odamen, that's how you say strawberry, minwa, that's and then muskomen. So that's how you say raspberry. Odamen, minwa, muskomen. So the plurals are telling. We have an AN for strawberries, but we have an AK for muskomenak. So you see the difference there. So I can tell which one is animate because it ends in an AK. Muskomenak, raspberries, are considered animate. But why aren't strawberries? So that's where it comes, that's where it gets tricky. And this can be because of, that's how the speaker, that's their discretion. It could be how it's passed down in their community. It could be several reasons, but mainly this is when it comes up, the discussion of animacy. We have these are very important. Berries are important to Anishinaabe. So then you would say, well, how come all berries aren't important? Because we use them in ceremony. And the thing is you can, ask until you're blue in the face, and a fluent speaker, an elder, will say, just because. Just because. That's just the way it is. And so I've learned to accept that. But it's hard when beginners when they're learning this, because they're trying to make sense of it. And that's what we do as humans. We try to make sense of things. But that's just the way it is. And so, and that's where, it comes in of, there's something here. But see, the thing is, odamen, when strawberries, those are put into ceremonies, those become animate when they're used in let's say, a traditional plate, plate of food has to have 4 traditional foods. We have to have wild game, which could be, venison or buffalo or even gigu, fish. We have to have mandamin, which is corn, and mandaminak, that's animate. Corn is animate. We have like a kusman, some sort of squash, and then we have berries. And it can be any kind of berry. It can be raspberry or strawberry or blueberry. So, and when they go on that plate, that ceremony plate, they are considered animate because we are using that to feed the spirit. So, let's see. A stone is a stone, except when asin, if you notice asinic, hard K, that means it's animate. That's just a regular stone. A stone is a stone, right? And then we pluralize it, it becomes animate. And we have mishomis. Mishomis is a grandfather. So asin, asinic, can be just stones you see on the beach. So Anishinaabe, we use those stones and we use them in ceremony because stones to us are grandfathers because they have that knowledge. They're like ancestors to us because they've been here since the beginning of time. They've been through it all. They are teaching us something. They are considered animate. We teach them like we would teach, like how we would treat our grandfathers. It's like how we talk about Nokamistabekizas, the grandmother moon. That's how we treat her. And that's how we treat. And also, I have to take a step back. Mishomis, Minwa, Nokomis. So there was a time where it's like, okay, they're grandfathers and grandmothers. So we have to include that, of course, to be inclusive. And so when we have a ceremony and we say buju to our Mishomis, we also say buju to our Nokomis. So they're considered, we call them both, Mishomisak and Nokomisak. So for an example, when we use stones, rocks, arsenic, we'll use them in ceremony like sweat lodge. We'll use them around our sacred fires. And we use them in some of our drums we tie them with. And we consider them our teachers. So they're animate. A stone is a stone, but that stone, could be going through ceremony. That means that there's a spirit that is called into it, that we're calling on our ancestors. So just some examples of, animacy and inanimacy. Okay. Oh, inanimate nouns. So we talked about that. So now we're going to talk about when it's appropriate, the energy within. Now we're talking about action. So these are considered our 7 grandfather teachings. Let me make sure there's 7. Okay, I got all 7 up there. These are called Mishomasak Kinamagewanan, our grandfather teachings. And these are more than just words. These are actions. These are something to live by, something to strive for, something that we hold true to ourselves in our daily action and our daily interactions. But the thing is that if you don't ask the spirit, to help you with these words, it's not going to happen. You can say Nikaaniganaa all day, but are you truly living in Nikaaniganaa? So this ending right here, that means it is an action. So technically, this word means the act of being respectful. And so this, I always like to start off with Nikaaniganaa when I'm with youth, to get that base of respect in there and to talk about it, to ways of being respectful, how our words, how can our words be respectful towards each other? How can we act respectful towards Shkakamikwe, which is Mother Earth? Are we just going to, just kick that rock? Are we just going to break that branch? Are we going to be respectful? Because those are considered our relatives. So we always start off with Netawn, and then we move to Gijigowi, love. And that is just the act of unconditional love. That's, we have that, we teach another phrase, Gizagan, which means I love you. And we teach them to say that when they go home. So you learn the word, say it to your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa, or your guardians, whoever's taking care of you, saying that Gizagan is really saying, heart to heart, I love you. Debwewin, we talk about truth. Gwetquadziwin, being honest, the act of being honest, living in an honest way. Akadewin, bravery. So this one just came up with my Nosha, my granddaughter, who is 6. And I forgot what she was doing. And we talked about Akadewin about being brave because I think she was afraid of something at school, or not like a bully or anything. There was something at school that she was apprehensive to. And we talked about Akadewin about being brave. And she was so, when she came home from school and she called me and she was so happy, she was just like, no, miss, I was brave today. And so, we just tried to bring that into, into their home and with children. But this goes for, again, all ages. Nabwakawan, wisdom. A lot of our elders carry this wisdom, to pass down to us. And then we have, so, okay, I'm going to go back here to Nabwakawan. So the wisdom, I have not a lot, I have a good amount of elders and advisors in my life that I talk to. I talk to about anything, making decisions, or just to have heart-to-hearts with them, or if I'm having a problem or an issue. It's pretty rocky out there in our society, and even within our tribal community, it gets rocky, it gets political. And when I need to focus, I always go to Shkakamikwe, I go to Mother Earth for help, but I also go to my elders because they carry that in Nabwakaw, and they carry that wisdom. So, Daba Denziwen, humility. This is the hardest one. The act of being humble, the act of you don't know everything, and it's hard. We have a lot of adults in our community, including myself, that kind of feel ashamed that we don't know our language, and it's not our fault. There's big reasons why we don't have our language. There's huge reasons why it is not a daily working language. But as I take it personally as a responsibility as a member of my tribe to learn my language and to keep it going. But sometimes there is shame there that I don't know it, and feeling not humiliated, but that act of like, I should know that. And so I get after myself. So sometimes we have people that feel like that with, language and culture, and not knowing, certain things that you think you should know. And so taking that guard down and being humble, is really, really hard, especially for adults. So that's the toughest one to learn and teach and live by. That's a hard one. Okay. How's my time? Oops, did I just go backwards? No, I didn't. 20 minutes? Okay. All right, so we're back with, so I want to go over some words, very important Anishinaabe words and concepts. So this word, Nikaaniganaa, means that we are all related. And when I mean we, I mean everything on this earth we're all related. Like I'm related to those baskets. I'm related to, the lake. I consider the lake a relative, water, very, very important. And especially with Anishinaabe women, that is our role as Anishinaabe women, is to take care of the water. That also means to protect the water. We have the instinct as mothers, it's just in our DNA, it's in our biological makeup to be protectors of our babies, of our children, of our community. And so that's when we think of Nebe, or water, we think of Nebe as an entity, as a spirit that's alive, that has energy, that should be protected, should have rights as a living person. And that's how we refer to that, and that's how we take care of Nebe. And So I look at water, again, it has a female vibe because the reason why women are caretakers of the water is because, you know, our babies are living in water inside of us for almost 10 months. You know, our bodies are made up, you know, more than 70% of nibe, of water. So, you know, we are a part of water and water is a part of us. Why wouldn't we be related to that as humans? So to protect it and to make sure that it's going to be there for 7 generations. We have a concept of 7 generations before us and after us. So what did my ancestors do 7 generations ago? They were thinking of me. I'm thinking of my 7th generation community, family, great grandchildren down the line. Are they going to have clean water? Are they going to be able to speak their language? So that's my responsibility to pass that on and on and on and on. There's also another concept of 7th generation of, so it's me in the middle, and then I have 3 generations behind me, to my great grandparents, to my grandchildren in front of me, and I'm in the middle. So there's 3 on each side. So that there is a little more, you know, just a little more like it's close. You know, I don't know if I'm going to be here when my great grandchildren are here, but I want to make sure that, you know, they have clean water and they live in a safe place and they know who they are as Anishinaabe, you know, but that's up to me to pass that on to my children and for my children to pass that on to theirs and so on. So looking back at what my ancestors did for me, and that I wouldn't be here without their sacrifice and their resiliency. So that's very personal when it comes to Anishinaabe and our belief system and the way we live, the way we think about the future is we're always thinking about the past. We're always thinking of our ancestral ties. And I think that's what makes us resilient. And so Nikaaniganaa is, you know, that means everything. That means Nokamistapikizis, our grandmother moon. That means, you know, all of our Sinik, Mitigwake, all of our trees, you know, a leaf, bugs. When I would teach in high school, I would tell my students, okay, think of us, we're all connected, we're all related. And I'm thinking of animals, everything, nature, everything, right? And we're all just kind of intertwined and we're connected. So if you took out one thing, let's say you take out Amu, you take out the bees, you know, we can't survive without them. Take out the water, we're all going to die. But you take out humans, the earth is still going to go on without us. So I try to show that to them to like, we are not superior. We are not superior over Mother Nature. We're not superior over each other. We all need each other. We all are connected. And so that's another, you know, example of Nikaaniganaa, of being all related to each other and thinking of that concept when, you know, we move into the future and when we make decisions and when we vote, things like that. You know, we always have this concept of we are all related. That is a very, very outspoken truth when it comes to Anishinaabe. We're not afraid to admit that or to talk about that. Very proud of Nikaaniganaa. Jawenamishana. So notice the endings here, na, that is inclusive of everyone. So Nikaaniganaa, we are all related, including, you know, things that are inanimate that we see are inanimate, but are maybe animate to someone else. Jawenam, the word Jawenam right here. This means to have, it can, and also Anishinaabe is used in according to context. So Jawenam is like, it's a blessing, but it's also pitiful, and it's a forgiving concept. So Joanna Mishnah means forgive us, bless us, pity us, because we're humans, we make mistakes, we don't know any better, and we're asking for that forgiveness. So Joanna Mishnah, I usually say both of these words, you know, in my prayer, because I'm thinking when I have my sema, my tobacco, and I'm praying and I'm talking to the entities, spiritual, Gijigowi, the creator, I'm thinking of Nikaaniganaa, everybody, all my relatives. And then I think of Joanna, I say, Joanna Mishnah, forgive us, you know, have pity on us. We're humans, we don't know any better. So but that na is inclusive for everybody, every spirit, everything, every entity. And then this last one, Anikubijigan. So this is a very important word. Anikubijigan means, the word translates to something that comes connected, something that comes full circle. And so the root word in here, you can use to when you tie, because you're connecting it and you're connecting it and you're coming full circle with something. You're connecting two things. So this word here means great grandchild and great grandparent. See that full circle concept of them coming together. So, and then for short, so my mom is Anna Kubijigan. So my mom is a great grandmother. And my mom and my granddaughter, my Nosha, call each other Kubi because they're honoring this word, Anna Kubijigan. It's coming full circle. It's connected. And I just think that's such a beautiful word, such a beautiful phrase of those two have that special connection. Only those two can call each other Kubi. You know, I'm not a Kubi, you know, and no one else is, but my granddaughter is and my mom is. So they're Kubi. So they have that special relationship and that connection. And it's because it came full circle. So, you know, there's so much in our words and our phrases that tie in our humanity, our spirituality, our connection to the world, our connection to spirit, our connection to each other. And the Anishinaabemowin it's a living entity to me. You know, when I speak these words, I'm speaking these sounds out to existence. I'm speaking these sounds because I want them to go to the universe. You know, I'm speaking these sounds because I'm communicating. I might be asking for something. I might be asking for help. You know, I might be asking for, please take care of our water, watch over our water. And that's going to be awful for the water, for all humanity that lives here. It's not just Anishinaabe. So I pray for that. I want that to go to the universe. I want that to go out there, you know. That's why I hold my sema, and that's why I know these sounds will go, because I mean it. I mean it with my heart. I mean it with my spirit. When I say these, I want them to go, you know, to the source, to the spirit world. So those are three important phrases that I live by. You know, they're very important to me. My mom is my world. My granddaughter is my world, you know, and they're connected and they have that connection. Um, I am humble enough to say, Joanna Mission, you know, bless, forgive me. You know, I make mistakes, but I need to be held accountable for my mistakes for myself. And then Nikaaniganaa, I do believe we are all related, you know, but we're all related to more than just what we see than what we hear. You know, there's those vibrations, there's that energy, and that's what we all have in common. And not just animate, not just animals, people. I mean, Ishkakamikwe, Mother Earth. So I do believe that is the end of my presentation. We have Miigwetchin Wendam. That means I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that you all came here to see me. That is awesome. And to have these conversations, because now we'll have questions. And so we don't, you know, that means I will see you later. That doesn't mean like goodbye, like I'll never see you again. We're going to see each other again somewhere. That's what that means. So, and then some of my contact, that is my work number, my email. If you have any more questions that you want to ask me, yeah, I'm available. So I just want to open it for any discussions, any questions.
I had read recently that some entities had petitioned to have their water source declared a corporate entity to be their own, to have their own rights. Is that something that's going on in our area too, to get Lake Michigan or the Great Lakes?
Yeah.
Declared their own spirit or
their own rights. It's been talked about. I don't believe there hasn't been any action, but I know that's brought up. Like the water needs to have their voice. You know, we fight for the water, but the water needs to have its own rights because it's alive. It doesn't fall under the scientific characteristics of being alive, but as humans, we know that that water is life because it keeps us alive. So yeah, it's been talked about for sure. Yeah.
I was basically here in the coffee and I was just thinking like all the stuff I learned today, I should have learned in high school.
Mm.
I didn't have a teacher that teach us, so like, I'm like, I don't know that Anishinaabemowin migration story and I've lived here my whole life. So thank you.
Yeah,
And a question for
absolutely.
you is, I recently learned about some language reclamation projects in Alabama with the historical schools.
Mm.
And they've started an eco village basically to repatriate.
That's amazing.
When they did it, and the person who's kind of spearheading it is a couple, but he really talks about how he tried a lot of different emerging schools, like he was a teacher, and that, they went only so far, and what he realized is like the importance of living in the language and being in the context of their land and practicing their culture and how the language comes alive. So I was wondering if you could talk about that, like the importance of also being in this place and how your language is relevant to this place and the culture.
Great question. I noticed you remind me, I didn't really get to that, of the status of our language now. So I did talk about the two brothers that still speak, but we're at a very urgent state because, and we were talking about the island earlier of Odawa speakers. So those speakers are 65 and up. They're retiring. We're not going to get anyone to move here when they're 65. They're ready to retire. So all of our language teachers are retiring and ready to go back home to wherever they're from. We have 5 or 6 fluent speakers in the state of Michigan that are working for different tribes. We have 2 that are working down at Grand Traverse Band, and we have a lot of consultations with them. We have a lot of meetings. We treat them as advisors and mentors, but they're getting ready to go home. So that's a little scary because we have our fluent speaking elders, which is very rare. It's rare to find a fluent First Nation speaker. And then we have adults, youth, children, babies. There's this huge gap of language not being passed down. So some of the things that we've done, of course, technology. So we developed classes. We actually we're going to have in fall of 26, we're going to offer Anishinaabemowin beginning 1 and 2. That's in development right now, and it's online. It's fully online, and we're going to offer it to high schools, so high school students can dual enroll. So that's kind of taking, care a little bit of that demographic of our youth. But there's not a lot for children, not a whole lot. And so we started another group that's 0 to 6. So we gathered like young families with babies and toddlers, and we would gather and we were teaching the parents on how to speak to their children. And we only met for like maybe 2 or 3 hours. And that's good and all, but we need more than that. We need more time. We need more resources, and it's really hard for parents to learn when they have a 2-year-old climbing all over them. So, to split the parents and the kids, because we need to get at those parents. They have to learn this language because they have to start talking to their kids. So that's what we're realizing. So we're trying to make a move on that of getting those parents together. And a lot of them are young, but we also have grandparents that come in and guardians who are older, who have adopted, someone in the Native children in their family. So we have a range, but we're really trying to focus on that and trying to see what is working and what is not. So we're trying to hit all the demographics. We have a Panay immersion program that we partner with Bay Mills Community College. That's a tribal college up in Brimley. And they, thank goodness through Zoom, they have hired 2 fluent speakers. And so twice a month, they do just immersion to us storytelling. So there's minimal interaction, but it's a fluent speaker telling stories in a natural way. like talking about something about this, and we're all watching on Zoom and we're listening and paying attention, so that's another avenue that we're doing. We make a lot of curriculum. We give to different schools, to the Title VI programs, which is Native American programming through the federal government. But we just don't have the capacity. I would love to put a language teacher in every school. That's the dream. I was at 3 schools. I was in 3 high schools. I was at Petoskey. I would hit a Lansing and I'd come back to Harbor. And it was like, talk about burnout. I did that for 5 years. And it just wasn't, we needed something else. We needed something different, more effective. And that's when we started the online classes. So I wasn't going to all these schools. So yeah, it's, we're just trying to figure out what is the best method, best way to do that. So that village sounds amazing. It is living in language. When we were with the little families and playing and pretending, pretending to play like kitchen and, house, whatever, we were using it more naturally. So it's like, okay, we got to get this in the home. So, but another thing is they need a support system. They need a space to speak and learn. And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get a space. Unfortunately, it's a lot of money, but we need a space just for Anishinaabemowin language and culture, because we can share community buildings all day long, but we need a space where only language happens there. And so people can come in and be supported, families and, so miigwech. Any other? Yeah.
And what-
The double vowel system, I believe I know his name, he was a linguist, Fierro system. It was named after him, the double vowel system. I would say in the 90s, they started using the double vowel system. Before that was just phonetics. So there was no consistency with phonetics. And before that, it was just basically phonetics. What you heard is what you wrote down. So it was like, anyone can do that, but it's not always going to be the same because of perception, and what you hear. Double vowel is consistent. And so that's the most successful way of we taught. Was there more to that question? Did I? Okay. Yeah. In fact, the language classes around here started in the early 90s with a gentleman named Victor Kiogima. So he has since passed away. If you noticed, I said ba. So that's what we do out of respect. Like earlier, I said my nos ba, my father who had passed away is what I said. So whenever I say his name or someone who's passed, like my nokomis, my grandmother passed just in August. So I call her nokomis ba because she's no longer here. She was here, but she's not. And that's out of respect. So Victor Kiogima owned Indian Hills, the gallery. Yeah. We're trying to, that's the space we're trying to, but it's not, there's some setbacks, but that's my dream, because that's where our language classes started, was by him in that space, and how perfect would that be for us to come back there full circle again and continue language. That's what he wanted. That's what he intended, so, and there's generations in his family that are language learners. And one of them was one of my students at Petoskey, and she is now working in the youth program for our tribe as language and culture advocate. So, we're trying, and we need space, and we're gonna, it's all for Anishinaabemowin and our culture. Any more questions or? Sure. Yes. It sounds like a mix of French. Manitou is actually pronounced Manido, which is spirit. So basically, Spirit Island. Wakwama, and that we don't have L's, so there is some mixed language in there. And then Wakwamakong is the place of the bay. So, and that's what we have Wakwadonsing. Harbor Springs is the place of the little bay, Wakwadonsing. And then, so we have Wakwamakong, which is Odawa, Wakwadonsing, which is also Odawa, you know, talking about the bays, you know. Good question. I'm glad you reminded me, and I always forget that that's Manitoulin, but I always call it Wakwamakong. Yeah, yeah, thank you. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Like I said, if you have any more questions or you want to talk anymore, just, you know, get a hold of me. Miigwech for coming. Miigwech gabizandoyek. Miigwech for coming and listening.